this is a Raspberry Pi Zero W. So it's going to be transmitting this camera image or video via Wi-Fi to MotionEyeOS, through MotionEyeOS to just any old browser. It's capable of running MotionEyeOS on this little SD card. This camera is a Raspberry Pi version 2.1, camera 2.1. This is the no IR version, the no IR. Kind of a misnomer, but it's no IR filter, so it's capturing infrared as well as visible light. These are Hammond boxes, and you can see they're a nice ABS box. The part number is conveniently marked right in here. It's a 1551K series, and these modules happen to fit in here quite nicely. They're just the right size. And what I have done already is mount one in here so you can see the camera. This is a normal vision camera, and it has a little port here for the USB power, and it's transmitting the image via Wi-Fi using MotionEyeOS. So I routed this cable outside just to prevent it getting bent dramatically inside. It actually does fit inside, but you need a kind of a right angle bend on it, and I don't need this to be inside because I 3D printed a mount for this camera. So this is a GoPro mount with a GoPro type of nut. This mounts onto my tripod, which I'll show in a minute, and the camera just fits in here. So the cable is all covered up, and it fits nicely and snugly into the holder. So this particular one is probably going to be used to capture my time-lapse photography of my 3D printer, but I'll also be able to use it outdoors with an umbrella to keep the water off it. Other Hammond cases have a full waterproof seal, so I can put them anywhere without an umbrella, and they'll survive much better in the outdoor. So this unit here will probably end up in one of the watertight cases instead of just this indoor case. So let me just bring out the tripod and we'll see how that fits. Okay, here's what the camera mount looks like. You can see the top of the tripod and how the camera fits. I can of course adjust the angle by loosening off this nut and rotating it in and out. So that'll be just fine for indoor work and maybe even outdoors with a little bit of a umbrella on top of it. But I won't leave this outdoors. It's just to try it out and see if I can capture what's going on out there and have multiple cameras working at the same time. I'll put a little bit of a demo together because I can run these two cameras right now, and the third one is expected to run off that Compute Module 4 if I ever get that working, or the backup plan is to run it off that Raspberry Pi 3B. But I would like to use the kit Compute Module 4 if possible. Nobody is talking about how to get a camera working with that Compute Module. It seems to be a bit tricky. One thing I should mention is these cameras, the version 2 cameras, have actually an adjustable focus lens, and you can buy a tiny little plastic gizmo to try and adjust them. But I happen to have these fancy titanium tweezers with really flat but precise jaws on them, and you can grab the lens and rotate it to adjust the focus. So I think I can avoid trying to either print an adjustment tool or buy one by just using these fancy tweezers. My normal electronics tweezers don't have the flat edge on them that is able to grab the sides of the little lens. So what else can I show you? So let's take a look at this thing. This is a display, an LCD display, which has an HDMI input and is powered by a USB on this little card at the back. And I 3D printed a holder for all of that. Now this display is great for testing out these cameras and these little Raspberry Pi modules because they have an HDMI output, and MotionEye operating system requires you to know the IP address of the Wi-Fi module in here, and these things are serving the video through that Wi-Fi. So when these things boot up, they will display the IP address on the display, and then you can type it into your browser and it will access the video coming from the module. It's very, very simple, but you do need to know what the IP address is, and that's a simple way to get it. There are other ways. You can look at your Wi-Fi router and see if you can discover what it's dishing out in terms of IP addresses. But what I found here is that although you can set the IP address in MotionEyeOS to be a static IP address, the router really, in my case, just retains the same address for the same camera all the time. No matter how many times I unplug them in which order, the same camera always ends up with the same IP address. So I don't really need to try that static IP thing. I did try it. Did not work very well for me, but it is a possibility if I get stuck with this thing switching IP addresses all the time. Anyway, I'm going to show what these things look like when they're all hooked up to MotionEyeOS and viewed through a browser.